Chapter 5. Kim pulled back abruptly, her hands holding tight to Eva's upper arm as she looked up into her eyes. Aw, what a brave girl you are. Eva fought not to roll her eyes and instead inserted her coffee and purse firmly between herself and Kim. She had it with the pity. It got old and fast. Thanks, Kim. I'm fine, really. No need to worry about me. It's onward and upward, she said, extracting herself from the woman's surprisingly strong grasp. Kim gave her a shaky smile, and for a moment, Eva was afraid she might actually burst into tears. That's the way. You hang in there. What a trooper you are. Kim sniffed out. But hey, you told him and good. And I'm sure you're right. You will find someone else. You won't end up a sad statistic, filling out endless online dating profiles, constantly getting swiped left, then moving back in with your mom because your roommate moved out and you can't find anyone else to cover their half of the rent, all the while your boyfriend of 8 years still won't commit because he says he doesn't want to be held down. On the word down, Kim let out a little choked cry and she reached over the desk going for a tissue and blew her nose loudly. So this is the day that just keep on giving. Eva felt all her muscles go tight and seemed to bunch up at once into her shoulders and neck area. Feeling the tables turn, she gave Kim an awkward pat on the arm, not, not quite comfortable getting too close to the overly emotional receptionist. Are you all right? Hey, it's not so bad. As they say, plenty of fish and all. Kim blinked, then gave Eva a surprised look as if she didn't quite get Eva's try at sympathy. She chuckled and waved her hand before letting out a delicate snort. Oh no, I'm fine. It's you that got dumped on TV. Frankly, I'd be mortified. The way I see it, I'm sitting pretty good right now. I don't believe her. Eva threw her a sharp look and a crooked brow. Well, okay then. Thanks for the reminder. Glad I'm still the winner in the sucks to be me contest of life. Now, can we move on? Here's the rule, it's over and done. I don't want to hear about Kevin, the show, or how sorry anyone else is. I'm fine, I'm back, and I'm ready to move on. So, how about you get on the phone and get to passing that message through the wires, okay? Kim blinked harder this time before fumbling back to her desk area. Sure. So I guess you don't want these messages left for you yesterday. They're mostly about, you know what? When Eva maintained a stony silence, Kim swallowed and nodded. So maybe I should throw them away or pass them on to your assistant? Eva put her coffee cup on the reception station and took the pile of messages. It wasn't Kim's fault she was in this mess, so it was no use taking it out on her. Don't worry about it, I'll take them. So many, huh? Yeah, I'm sorry. Most of the calls did go to Jess, and I would have put these through to your voicemail, but I knew you probably didn't want to deal with listening to most of them, so I just routed them this way and took them myself. I think she was being nosy. Eva gave Kim a weak smile. Annoying or not, she was trying to help. There were so many messages and all contacts that had her direct line, and Kim had gone above and beyond and taken the messages for her. Thanks. You didn't have to. You could have routed it to Jess. Oh, believe me, she had her hands plenty full. Her line has been ringing nonstop. Your clients have not stopped calling. It's been all hands on decks around here. Oh, and about that, Kim continued, lowering her voice enough to make her whisper tone more pronounced. Valerie is waiting for you in her office. She said you should see her as soon as you got in. Eva nodded. This was anticipated. Of course, her mother had summoned her. She was surprised she patiently waited until she got into the office. She half expected her to use her emergency key and come barging in on her while she was still in bed last night or this morning. It wouldn't be the first time she made herself more than at home in Eva's space, but since she hadn't, maybe things weren't as bad as Eva imagined them to be. Eva felt her heart pick up to trotter speed. Who was she fooling? Of course they were. Her mother was probably out of her mind by now. She'd been after Eva to find the perfect man and get married for as long as she could remember. Uh-huh. It was, Eva thought, an odd and morbid after effect of Eva's father passing away from a apparent heart attack brought on by the extreme physical exertion of a marathon sex session with his personal assistant after competing in a marathon road race with the New York Runner Society. Apparently, there were only so many marathons a middle-aged man could take. Eva was only 12 when the veil of her perfect world was torn down. But worse, she thought at times that losing her father was the dramatic shift in Eva's formerly carefree mother. It was as if all her mother's joy was suddenly gone with this one. Okay, so it probably was not one, given how dad seemed to have a string of assistants. Awful betrayal, only to be replaced by the drive to become the perfect socialite and businesswoman. Valerie Ward was obsessed with maintaining an air of outward excellence. She took over Eva's father's spot at the head of the Ward group and turned it and herself into the face of exceptional perfection. And to that, her daughter Eva became just another extension, a part of the machine. And this misstep with Kevin was unacceptable. There was a plan: college, a year of travel, and then 3 years in the business while she was groomed. Then marriage to a perfectly moldable man that would finish off the perfect portrait completing their family image. But with his on air breakup, Kevin had not only ruined the plan, he had completely obliterated the plan. Much as Eva's father had done to their family when he was carted out of that hotel room, as rumor had it, stiff as a board in all aspects of his anatomy, with his gym socks still on. Just humiliating. Eva closed her eyes, then opened them again. The similarity of her and her mother's public humiliation was not lost on her. She was sure her mother was probably right now waiting for her, though poised and polished with a new list of eligible candidates vetted to her standard and ready to wed. Ew. Onward and, well, just onward. Failure was not an option when it came to the Ward women. Never accept defeat and never let them see you sweat. That's sad. It was that motto in mind that Eva gathered her things and headed down the marble hall to start her day and face the music that was her mother, Valerie Ward. The office exterior glass wall was set to dim, but Eva could see from the silhouettes that someone else was inside with her mother. She frowned, seeing that her mom's burly assistant Lance was not perched outside of his usual gatekeep position and could let her know who was inside. She hadn't been aware of them having any early morning client meetings scheduled. Smoothing the front of her blouse, Eva knocked quickly 3 times on the glass door. Come in, Eva. At that command, Eva felt the instant beginnings of a frown. Of course, someone would have called to tell Valerie she was on the way down, possibly Kim, or maybe even her own assistant. In the end, they all worked for Valerie, but going in there on the defensive was not the way to diffuse the situation, and she knew it. Eva made a point to ease her features so that, she hoped, her expression was unreadable, especially when it was possible that clients were inside with her mother. She saw her mother first, standing tall and commanding behind her desk in a vintage black and white abstract print wrap dress. Her hair was pulled back tightly into a signature long, low ponytail. As always, she looked like she could either be about to do some sort of boardroom takeover or jet off for St. Barth at any moment. When it came to her globe-trotting mother and their exclusive list of clients, it was hard to say which might be the case, and it all worked for Val's cool persona. Good morning, Eva said with an outer confidence and smile she hoped hid her inner turmoil. You wanted to see me, Mother? Come in, Eva. I say you've kept us all waiting long enough. As I'm sure you know, we have quite a few things to iron out. It was on the drop of the collective us that the two men seated opposite her mother's desk turned around, and Eva, perfectly poised but expertly expressionless, expressionless smile sank. Still, it didn't escape her notice that only one of the men stood. The other, Carter Bain, the morning show producer, stayed in his seat, as if he'd get up for anyone. Smug bastard. Eva let out a long breath through her nose. Why was she even surprised? Carter seemed the type that expected people to rise for him, not the other way around. The fact that the man he was with, the one standing, was there at all, and standing no less, was what really took her by surprise. Especially since when she last saw the tall, dark haired man, he was laid out on the floor, holding what she was sure were his aching balls and probably cursing her every way but Sunday, though she hadn't hung around for confirmation of that final part. Eva's eyes narrowed in on her past takedown. She hoped he wasn't there to start more trouble. She saw a glimmer of a spark in his dark eyes and decided that he was there and with Carter, so of course he was. Briefly, she wondered if he was there to file some sort of charges, talk damages, bodily harm, or some other such crap. That would be just what she needed on top of everything else. But with the spiral her life was currently on, she wouldn't have been surprised. Eva shook her head. She never should have agreed to that damn show in the first place. Her eyes swept from his dark glimmering down to Carter's vain, unreadable gaze before she glanced back at her mother. What's he doing here? It didn't matter which he her mother assumed at this point, since she didn't care to see either of the men ever again. Eva, take a seat, Valerie commanded. Mr. Bain has been kind enough to come and see us today with an ingenious new show plan I think would be wonderful, especially after all that, well, unpleasantness yesterday. Eva sucked in a lungful of much needed air. Perfect. And so perfectly Ward group. Her future ripped out from under her, neatly summarized down to just one word: unpleasantness. She gave them a quick once over before landing back on her mother. Wonderful for who? Them or our company? Because I seriously doubt anything he comes up with will be wonderful for me. Miss Ward, won't you please at least hear us out? Mr. Tall, dark, and suddenly chivalrous cameraman moved to the side. He offered up his chair to her, and Eva felt her brows come further together and the hairs on the back of her neck stand on edge. He was a far cry from the way he had looked the day before when he held the camera, capturing her private meltdown for the whole world to see. He was a lot more polished, and his hair was still a little long, but neater, though she hated to admit caring, or even looking for that matter. Most of the delicious scruff was gone. Low and tapered, but blessedly, just enough was left to be slightly dangerous. Gone were the jeans and the wrinkled white tee. In their place was a well cut designer suit, expensive Italian loafers, and a white button down, open at the neck, showing off his deeply tanned throat. Yes, he was very different today out of his work clothes. No, I think I'll stand, thank you. I'm sure this meeting will be short, Mr. Walker. Aiden Walker. His deep, rich voice was smooth and commanding as he stated his name in that annoying three-word Bond, James Bond kind of way. Still, it washed over Eva like a wave of silk, making every nerve in her body stand at attention as he held out his hand. But Eva stared at it for a beat before she looked back up into his eyes with newfound recognition. She felt her brows go up as embarrassment brought heat to her cheeks. Of course you are. Shit, Aiden Walker. How could she not have recognized him immediately? Especially since media relations and PR were her job, practically her life. It didn't matter that she was caught up in a wave of emotions yesterday. There was no excuse for being that far off her game that she didn't recognize a man with his reputation. Eva felt slightly sick, but fought to cover it. Talk about a pile on. Did she really embarrass herself to all holy hell and then kiss and maim Aiden Walker? She stared at Walker, and something in his gaze sparked again, zinging her and lighting a fuse. That was it. It was officially official that she had the worst taste in men in business and in pleasure. So it was Bad Boy Walker who was behind her public humiliation. No, it wasn't him. Yes, it was. Well, him and that asshole Kevin. But Carter was probably just Walker's lackey. Everyone knew it was Walker's father who was the head of WBC, and that made Aiden heir to the throne. And with his past history of taking risks and going too far, he should have known better than anyone what a weapon the camera could be. He was always in and out of the news, getting into some scrap or another. He was a notorious celebrity hound. Known for doing anything to get the story in his early days, he got in quite the reputation for getting into scraps after scrap with celebs. And no matter that he was supposedly reformed and now into hard news, his latest misstep had almost gotten him and his crew into some very hot water on the wrong side of the Turkish border. Eva swallowed before speaking. No, thank you, Mr. Walker. I'll stand. Besides, I find this is my best angle. So, what is it today? Is the camera hidden in your lapel? Or, she looked around, have you already tricked out my mother's office with micro cameras? You've been known to employ less than overboard tactics to get what you want. As she made that comment, Eva not only saw a glimmer in his eyes, but she thought she caught a spark. Fine. Maybe, like her kick, it was hitting a little below the belt. But he was on her turf now, and like them, she could play dirty too. Walker leveled her with a challenging stare, then took a step back. Pulling his hand away, he walked over to the corner seated area and easily lifted one of the heavy chrome chairs and brought it over, taking a seat himself before looking back up at her. No hidden cameras and nothing in my lapel. You also shouldn't believe everything you read about me, Miss Ward. I'm honest when it comes to the way I handle a story. My methods may be unconventional, but I do what it takes. She noticed Carter Bain shoot him a look at his tone, but Walker ignored him and continued. So today it's just us, and we want to talk about what happened yesterday and how to fix it. Carter here thinks we have a good way for both you and the station to come up winners when all is said and done. Eva continued to stand, staring at the three of them, probably for longer than need be because the air got thick, and she hated to admit it, weird with an uncomfortable charge she wasn't in the mood to acknowledge. Carter Bain gazed at her expectantly, as if he had a pocket full of magic beans to sell that would make, if not all her dreams, then at least all of his own come true. Her mother took a seat, but not before giving her a look that let her know how disappointed she was in her and the whole sorry affair, and that she needed to get in line and on board with trying to fix it. Hell, she was sorry too. She hated to disappoint her mom, no matter if to the rest of the world she was a Teflon as they came. Eva knew different. Disappointing her mother meant disappointing herself. That said, Eva still wanted out. Standing where she was, jilted with all eyes on her, she wanted to run back to her apartment, shut the blinds, turn off the phone, and stay away from the TV until the next great celebrity disaster hit. and she was nothing but a forgotten funny blip on the social media radar. Eva looked back at Walker, and all she could see was him with his camera in the last image she had presented yesterday, raving like a silly little wounded child who gotten her favorite toy taken away. After Dad and his dying debacle, her mother never raved. At least not publicly, she didn't. No matter the talk in her face or behind her back, she was grace and elegance through and through. Thankfully, Eva thought her most unflattering footage had not aired, and for the life of her, she didn't know why not. She recorded the show, and when she arrived home, she thought she'd see both parts of her tirades on TV. But the footage ended after her awful proclamation, proclamation to Kevin about getting married with or without him and her storming out of the studio. The next segment after the break was a poorly timed, bringing the romance back into the kitchen cooking segment. Nothing on her and the rant in the not so green room. Still, what had aired was bad enough. She hated what it did to her reputation, how she now was looked at as one to be pitied. She had enough of that as a kid, and then later after her father's affair. Ward women didn't do sad or pity. Aiden Walker cleared his throat, bringing her attention to him once more, and surprisingly, the look he gave her wasn't one of disappointment, and it wasn't full of promises like Bane would probably offer. It came as even more of a surprise that it wasn't even apologetic, as it should have been for filming her. No, it was the same look he had presented the day before, right at the moment when she decided she wanted to kiss him, and all at the same time to kick him. Smug, self assured, even a little detached, and a way too cocky for his own good. His hooded gaze went from her eyes to her lips, sending a fissure of some sort of strange airwave sparking across the expanse of space separating them. His full lips twisted ever so slightly as he looked further down, sweeping from her collarbone to her breast to her hips, all the way to her toes, then back up to her eyes again. Eva forced herself not to flinch, just take him on, head on. But then he did it. Again. Walker had the nerve to shrug. Oh, he asking for it. It was as if the red on light suddenly flashed, bright and glaring, as if he was a matador, matador, waving the red flag. Eva sucked in a breath full of life-giving air and smoothly took the seat opposite him, looking him in the eye. Really, Mr. Walker? You have got to be kidding me with that damn shrug again. Walker smiled, zinging her once again as his face seemed to change from dark and slightly menacing to an all-out knock you down with a sexual feather gorgeous. Eva sucked in a breath as she stilled her back, grateful she had taken the seat. She shook her head and turned to Carter. Look, I don't know what type of game you two are playing, but you've got 5 minutes to fill me in before I call security and have you escorted out of our offices. Carter put his hands up. No need to go there, Miss Ward. Aiden is right. The offer we have for you would be mutually beneficial. Eva narrowed her gaze. Somehow I doubt that. Just hear them out, her mother said from the leather throne on the other side of the desk before she remembered they were in mixed company. Please, unfortunately, your quick declaration have gotten you, not to mention the firm, into a sticky situation. Now it's time to do what damage control you can. Flames licked at Eva's face. It was bad enough that she was in the mess she was in, but to be publicly dressed down by her mother in front of these two, it was just about too much. Biting back a response, she fought not to look Walker's way and catch any more unearned bravado in his expression. Instead, she kept her gaze trained on Carter Bain. What is it you had in mind, Mr. Bain? Bain smiled, and on anyone else, she supposed it would be cute. But after her perceived dealings, Eva was not biting. Her lips stayed firm as she crossed her legs and leaned back in a chair, frankly happy for the support. Carter's smile faded as he opened up a case and swiped on his tablet. As of yesterday, the game's been changed. Now, normally, we go to the runner-up couple and give them the planned dream wedding. Easy and done. But it would seem that you are a big draw. According to our social media analyzer, you took the ratings off the charts yesterday, and for hours after the show, you were a trending topic on Twitter with the hashtag Get Eva Married, followed closely by my favorite, Insert Groom Here. Eva groaned at the thought of it. What a disaster. She was an unwanted YouTube sensation. And to emphasize the fact, he swiped the screen again and showed her a gif of her yelling at Kevin, pushing back the chair, which fell behind her on the floor. The video repeated on a loop with the words, "I will get married," in big block letters underneath. She looked completely bonkers. Carter continued, "Now you know, press like this, we can't buy." "Of course you can," Eva Mother chimed in, always the businesswoman. "But it's damned expensive." Valerie gave Eva a wink as if, at least in this, she'd done something right. Hey, press was press. Carter cleared his throat and nodded. "Well, yes we can, it's just we rather not. And that said, you are the story. Everyone still wants to see you have your happily ever after. It will mean huge ratings for us and redemptions for you." Eva shook her head, then looked up at Carter, listening. "Listen, once is enough. What if I'm done with the whole dating and marriage thing?" Her mother sucked in a breath, and Eva raised a hand her way. "At least for now, Mother. Once publicly burned is enough for me. I made a mistake saying what I did. It was done in a fit of anger." "We do know about your hot temper, Miss Ward," Walker piped in with a low chuckle. Eva stilled. "Is that supposed to be funny? I'm actually quite level-headed. You can ask anyone. I only show anger when I've been unjustly provoked." "Duly noted. I'll be sure to let everyone know to keep provocative at a minimum." Eva felt her pressure rise. "What are you really here for? You said this was Mr. Bain's idea, so why are you even involved? Don't you have a real celebrity to chase or some war to explore?" Eva saw a muscle in his jaw tick as he leaned forward in his chair. "Miss Ward, I think we're getting off topic," Carter Bain chimed in. "Please, let's stay focused on the issue at hand." He tapped his screen again. "See here, we're talking about a whole new direction for your image." Eva bit at the inside of her cheek in order to hold off commenting as she watched Carter swipe his screen again and saw an image of herself come to life. There she was, photoshopped and looking perky as all get out in an overly satin, tulled white, princess-style wedding dress with a cutout blank figure in the spot where the groom should be. The hashtag was above in bold letters, "Insert Groom Here." Carter grinned. "Isn't it fantastic?" "What the living hell?" Eva blinked and wondered if she'd ever be able to close her mouth again as Carter continued to chatter on. "We're talking top notch, full blitz and glitz and all. The search will be on to find you your perfect groom." He lost his mind. Eva looked at the trio as they all looked back at her expectantly. Had they all lost their minds? Or maybe it was her who had gone over the bend. Eva shook her head. With the way things were going, that was more than likely the fact. Trying her best to sound rational, though, Eva directed her words and thoughts towards Carter Bain. Mr. Bain, there is no way this can work. Kevin and I were supposed to have our wedding next month. No one will believe I can find true love in a month. Carter nodded soberly. You're absolutely right. Then he grinned. But they will be behind 2 months. Just think of it. 8 men. 8 weeks to the perfect end of summer wedding, leading into fall sweeps. We will get our ratings and you will be a star. More importantly, you'll come out triumphant, darling, which is what you should be, Valerie chimed in. Not like some victim with no recourse that this on-air breakup just happened to. It will end on your terms, not Kevin's, and the ward's name will be back fully intact. That was it. She was officially in Craytown. Giving herself a mental shake, Eva snapped out of her social media trance and looked at her mother. In her gaze, she could see she was reliving all of the embarrassment of her father's not-so-secret indiscretions. To her, there was no other option. Perfection and excellence were the only revenge for the past hurts. Never let them see you sweat, and definitely never let them see you cry. Eva would regret nothing more than the day they decided that going on that stupid show would be a good idea. She should have known better, and now her mother would never let her live it down. Not if she didn't fix it. Sure, in the beginning, her mother had been all for the increased exposure for the firm, but now that it was all screwed up, well, there was no way she could leave it that way. She couldn't have the ward name tainted by yet another scandal. Eva felt her heart sink as her fate was sealed by her mother's expectant gaze. But Eva turned from her mother and looked at Walker. Damn him. His look had changed. The indifference had gone, and now his gaze was full of pity. It was as if he saw the silent communication that had passed between her and her mother and read too much. Pity, just like the looks she had gotten all morning. Pity, just like the look she had got when people found out how her father had died in the arms of a woman who was not his wife. The same pity that brought on yesterday's, oh, woe is poor me, I got dumped, and then a shrug, wall banging. Well, she wasn't having it. Eva could tell by Walker's look that he didn't think she could do it. He thought she'd bail and go running off to Saks on a shopping binge, or at least go off and hide away in her apartment or something. Well, she was not that girl. She would never be that girl. She was the woman who would face this head on, with or without cameras in her face. And at the moment, it seemed they would be there either way. All eyes were on her, whether she liked it or not. So she might as well make them one she could control. She needed to turn this story around so she came out the victor and not the victim. She was over this pity party. Time to call last dance and be out. No goodbyes are easy, but I'm really hating this one, Eva said to Corey, the woman who had been her friend ever since they were paired as the two roommates least likely to have anything in common ever in college. For the life of her, Eva couldn't figure out how their friendship had lasted as long as it had, but somehow they just clicked. Corey was the light to her dark and the wind to her wing, and on most occasions, the wing to her woman. Though in reality, that was vice versa, since it was Corey who was a bigger pickup artist of the two of them. Without Corey, Eva could honestly say her college years would have been spent primarily studying and going to class, but thankfully she had Corey to mix things up for her and give her a taste of some life off campus. They were in Corey's apartment. Eva having just finished helping, actually more like watching, Corey pack more swimsuits, than seemed humanly possible for her latest stint abroad while they drank bubbly and shared cupcakes between plotting some never to be carried out revenge on Kevin. You know, this is a trip I really don't want to take, especially not right now while you're going through this horror. But are you sure you don't want to at least go over to his place and egg his door or something? Eva let out a breath. Corey, we are not in junior high. Corey pulled a face. I'm just going easy. I can get devious. But since I have to leave tomorrow, I don't want to leave you holding the bag. Corey was a head marketing manager for a popular private cruise line, and she was about to jet off to the Mediterranean for the summer. The pay was not the best, but it was still not a bad gig if you can get it. No, I'm going to go abroad with this one. Above, above board with this one. I have too many damage control to do. Corey rolled her eyes. Yes, I get that. But do you really think this show is the way to go? Eva bit her lips. Of course I don't. But I don't see any other way. Corey let out a long breath. That's it. I'm calling off my trip. You need me this summer. There is no way you should go through this alone. I can work at Starbucks or Shutter temp for your mother or something. Eva gasped. You'll do no such thing. She got up to hug her friend as if you really would anyway. Though the offer is appreciated, you really are loyal to a fault. But we both know what you think of both of those jobs. Having had them in the past, I don't need you making that kind of sacrifice. I'll be fine. I'm a big girl. I can handle myself. Corey raised a brow just when Eva gave a loud hiccup from the champagne. All right, big girl. How about you stay here tonight and I'll get you an Uber home in the morning? Okay. So that's the end of chapter 5. 37 minutes. These chapters are unnecessarily long. They have unnecessary information. It's repetitive. It's not getting to no type of juicy point. And I'm trying to have something to talk about, but I don't have nothing to talk about in each chapter. It started out okay. I think I can foresee what's going to happen. I think y'all can foresee what's going to happen. And that's all I got. The chapter, it could be shorter when it's nothing to talk about. Like, when it's like, yeah. So, I'm going to just see you in chapter 6. Bye.